Ladies and gentlemen, and photographers and video designers, we're going to create the project and add the images. But before we do so far, this is what you should have. You should have a topic, a theme that's appropriate. You should have gathered images and maybe a video by now. 5 you took, 5 you got off the internet. You saved them all in the assets folder with good names. You started a works cited page for everything that you got off the internet. You have edited the names of the images. You edited one image in Photoshop, and so on and so forth. All right, so if you haven't done so already, I want you to download OpenShot. Here's the web address. Download that and open OpenShot. So I'm assuming you've done that, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so once you have OpenShot open, we're going to add files. Okay, and so I'm gonna navigate to my video slideshow picture assets. I'm gonna press Control A to get everything, and then I'm gonna press Control again because I have the red small one and then the one I edited in Photoshop. I do not want that one, and I do not want that one. Okay, but I want everything else, so I'm gonna click Open. So I'm adding all the files to my project. Now, this thing right here, this track, or this is oftentimes called the timeline. At some point, we have to add things to it. So I'm gonna move on here while that thing's loading. All right. So we created a movie project. By the way, this is not a file that you can be played anywhere else. This can only work in OpenShot. So eventually, when we're done with the project, we're going to save it as a video file. But for now, it's just a project file that can only be used in OpenShot. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this thing before we go too far. So we're going to go File, Save Project As, and we're going to save it right there in our video slideshow folder. And we're going to save it right here next to our asset folders, and we're going to give it a good name like Video Slideshow with 5 photos. But I've already saved it, so I'm going to hit Cancel. Okay, so we clicked Import Files. We imported these things. We've saved it. And so the next step is going to be, let's take a look and see what the next step is. All right, so we're going to add images and choose transitions. But what we need to do is figure out what we want, okay? So I want you to do something like this. So pick 2 files. Let's see, I'm going to pick this one and this one. And then I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Add to Timeline, okay? And it says, because this thing is right here, it says, hey, do you want to put it right there? Nope, I want to put it at 0. I want to put it at the beginning. And I have to choose how long you want them. Anywhere between 4 seconds long and 7 seconds is good. I'm going to choose in between. I'm going to choose 5. All right, so for now, we're going to choose none on these things, and let's see what that does. I'm going to click OK, so it adds it in to my timeline. So this is what it's going to look like when the final product. So I take the scrub head, I grab it, take it to the 0, and then I hit play. And you can see for 5 seconds it shows one image, and then it's kind of boring, and then it changes to the next image up here. Okay, so that's no good. It's too boring. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to remove this click. I'm going to remove this clip. Okay, we're going to try it again. So we select these 2. We right-click it. We're going to add to the timeline. This time, we're going to put it at 0 again. But this time, and 5 seconds. And this time, we're going to do fade in and fade out. And you can choose however long you want. I'm going to choose 1 second. I'm going to click OK. And you can see it overlap them. Okay, and so I hit play now, and it starts off black, and it fades in, and then it fades between clips. You can see right now it's going to fade between clips, so it's a nice little transition between the clips. Okay, so let's keep going. I'm going to delete this one, delete this one. I'm going to move my scrub head to 0, and then I'm going to say add to timeline, and this time I'm going to choose the same 5. I'm going to choose fade in and out. I'm going to choose 1 second, and then for zoom I'm going to choose random. Okay, and so and if you want, we'll just try that. We'll click OK, and so now let's watch that and see what that does. Okay, so you can see that it moves it in, gives it some nice motion. And then we're going to have our transition between clips, and this one moves as well. Okay, so oopsie, knocked over my microphone. All right, so you can see what that does. And now finally, remove that clip, remove this clip. We're going to try one more thing. We'll move our scrub head back to 0. We're going to add these clips to the timeline. So we're going to choose 5 seconds. We're going to choose, by the way, so I want you to choose settings that you think look really good. I'm just showing you how to go about it. So the zoom, I'm going to choose random again. And then now for the transition, I'm going to choose this, bar ripple, and I'm going to make it 1 second. I'm going to click OK. Now, I think that was a bad choice. I think the transitions are too much, but let's see what it looks like. So you can see how it ripples in, it moves, then it's going to fade out. And move in. Okay, so there's a lot going on there, so I wouldn't do the last thing. So why did I do all this? Because we're going to remove this clip, we're going to remove this clip, we're going to remove that transition. Once you figure out what you like, then we're going to come up here, we're going to press Control A, select all of them. We're going to add them to the timeline, and we're going to choose the settings that you like. Okay, so I'm going to make it 5 seconds. I'm going to choose fade in and out with 1 second. I'm going to choose a random zoom, and I'm going to choose no transition. I'm going to click OK. And you can see that it added all of them with all the settings that I like, so they're all going to fade in, they're going to have some sort of motion, they're going to last for 5 seconds, and then it's going to transition. By the way, this is always choppy at this point. When I'm done and I go File and I export the video to YouTube, it's going to work a lot better. Okay, so we're going to save our project, and I think that might be it for this section of it. Oh, I do want to show you one thing. After the fact, you can add a lot of this stuff after the fact. So for example, if you wanted a transition, you could add a transition to this thing. So let's say you really like that. You could add it here, and you could shrink it down, and you could add transitions that way. I'm going to delete that. Another thing I want to show you too, I guess, is let's go to, so we're on transitions, let's go back to project files. You can add things manually. So like if I wanted to add this thing to the timeline, I could go there, I could say, oh, I want it to fade in and out, so I overlap them, and I could change the time and so on and so forth. So I can make it last like 20 seconds, or I can make it last 2 seconds. So you can play around with that too. I just wanted to show you the fastest way to do it. Okay, anyway, that's it.